Yalta, meeting of the Big Three. Roosevelt, Churchill, Stalin. Their agenda, the post-war world. Roosevelt's voyage, nearly 14,000 miles in all, traveling by automobile, by rail, by plane, traveling the greatest part of that distance, 10,813 miles by ship during wartime, through enemy waters, the dangers, the risks. Before going home, back to the familiar, back to the safety of Washington, Hyde Park, President Roosevelt stopped over at Great Bitter Lake on the Suez Canal in the land of Egypt. There, aboard his ship, the USS Quincy, the President met with an emperor and two kings, Haile Selassie of Ethiopia, Farouk of Egypt, Abdul Aziz of Saudi Arabia. This last meeting with the Saudi monarch was the most significant of the three. Abdul Aziz bin Abdul Al-Faisal Al-Saud, the Ibn Saud, the King of Saudi Arabia, husband to 125 wives, father to some 40 sons, father to a legion of daughters. Fearless warrior, defender of Islam, his rule as king united the Arabian Peninsula for the first time in its history. Abdul Aziz, the Ibn Saud, father and architect of modern Saudi Arabia. Aboard the USS Murphy, bound for a rendezvous with the President, the king traveled 800 miles up the Red Sea. The trip, a secret from his peoples. He had never left his desert kingdom before. When word leaked out, the people were incredulous. He must have been kidnapped by the Americans. Unaccustomed to sea and ships, unaccustomed to cabins and confinement, the Saudis erected a tremendous tent for their 6-foot 5-inch monarch. It stretched from the Murphy's bow to her bridge. Rich Arabian carpets covered the Murphy's deck, and a gilded throne was provided for the king's comfort, for the king's majesty. Islamic strictures. Each day, prior to the hour of prayer, the ship's navigator took a bearing on Mecca. The king, his entourage, 48 in all, princes, ministers, bodyguards, and slaves, faced Mecca and prayed. Unaccustomed to Western ways, Western cuisine, the king brought cooks, coffee servers, astrologers, and slaves, 7 live sheep for meat, a deckload of fruits, and water from the sacred wells of Mecca and Riyadh. 800 sea miles, a very long journey for a desert king, the sacrifice and honor that the king paid to the president. At 11:30 a.m. on Wednesday, February 14, 1945, the king met the president. East met West. They conferred for hours. Palestine, the Jews needed a homeland. Oil, America wanted all it could get. Independence, the Saudis must remain free. Friendship, perhaps the most important point of all. The king and the president had differing views, but they forged a strong personal friendship and a commitment to an alliance. King and president, nation and nation, pledged to each other their friendship. And then came the gifts, the tokens of affection, the expression of friendship. Among the tokens, the president gave the king a Douglas twin-engine transport plane complete with a crew of men to fly it and to maintain it. And a wheelchair, one of his very own. The king, crippled with arthritis in his legs, had admired it. For his part, the king gave a jewel-encrusted sword, a solid gold dagger, and rare, priceless Arabian costumes. These precious Arabian gifts, these Saudi treasures, form the core of our exhibit, which we call Gifts of Friendship.
He is the most different man ever elected to our highest office. Some say the greatest. Beginning in 1934 and ever after on January 30th, Franklin Roosevelt's birthday, the American people danced and raised money for their president. President Roosevelt's birthday balls. The American people were poor. It was the greatest depression we had ever known. A third of them lived in need. So Eddie Cantor told them to send in their dimes. He called it a march of dimes. And a poor but generous people gave their dimes. And the name March of Dimes stuck. The March of Dimes licked polio, Salk's vaccine. Not much polio on the American landscape anymore. Now, the enemy is childhood birth defects. March of Dimes will lick that too. No, Franklin Roosevelt never recovered from his polio. No, he never walked again. But his courage moved a nation time and again, and he taught us that no matter what the odds, the human spirit can and does triumph, that we can't be beaten. That together, we always win.